Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look at Philip K. Dick's novel Martian Time Slip. We're going to do this the usual way, so don't forget to check the description box of this video for timestamps and additional resources. Before we dive in, Happy New Year everyone, and I want to take a moment to sincerely thank you all for your support, both returning viewers and new subscribers. The recent growth of this channel has been noticeable, and I'm grateful for your engagement and enthusiasm for these book discussions. Martian Time Slip was first published in 1964 during what is often considered the peak of Dick's most creatively ambitious period. It was a string of novels that he produced that year alongside the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch and Dr. Blood Money. Dick wrote Martian Time Slip during a period of intense productivity but also personal instability. By then, he was in his third marriage to Anne Williams Rubenstein, with whom he had a daughter, Laura. The novel reflects some of Dick's recurring obsessions, including societal collapse, mental illness, and the effects of capitalism on both individuals and the environment. Set on a colonized Mars, it explores the themes of ecological destruction and alienation while weaving in speculative ideas about time and consciousness. Dick's own struggles with mental health and his interest in existential psychiatry deeply informed the portrayal of characters like Manfred Steiner, a young boy with autism whose unique perception of reality disrupts those around him. Martian Time Slip takes readers to a future where humans have colonized Mars, carving out a fragile existence on the dry and desolate planet. Governed by bureaucratic entities and riddled with societal inequalities, the Martian settlements reflect many of contemporary Earth's unresolved tensions. The story centers on Jack Bolan, a repairman, grappling with his past struggles with schizophrenia, and Manfred Steiner, a young boy with autism. As Jack becomes entangled in the schemes of Arnie Cott, a character that serves as a foil for narcissism and rogue capitalism, his health begins to deteriorate. Mars itself is as much a character as the humans inhabiting it. Its harsh environment amplifies the tensions among settlers. The book is packed with misogynistic, sexist, racist, and even fascist dialogues and statements, which makes it hard to digest at times. The native Martian population serve as a haunting reminder of colonial exploitation and the cost of progress. The colony's economic dealings, particularly in real estate and water supply, illustrate a system governed by class divisions and political power plays. Colonialization of Mars is portrayed as an extension of humanity's desire to dominate and exploit, with settlers attempting to terraform the planet to replicate Earth's environment and customs. Issues of a profiteering, racial, ethnic tension, and institutional corruption are woven throughout the novel. Dick's Mars is a dry and hostile landscape, its natural resources already exhausted by human activity. The canal system managed by the United Nations serves as a lifeline for Martian settlements, symbolizing both the ingenuity of human engineering and the inequities of a capitalist society. Access to water, a vital resource, is stratified, favoring the wealthy and perpetuating social inequalities, a dynamic reinforced by the bureaucratic inefficiencies of the UN. The planet's desertification parallels the pollution and overpopulation driving migration from Earth to Mars. As the narrative unfolds, Mars's transformation becomes an allegory for humanity's short-sightedness. Settlers' efforts to reshape Mars to suit their needs replicate the same mistakes that rendered Earth uninhabitable, perpetuating a cycle of ecological destruction. The narrative also critiques the social structures that underpin colonization. Mars's society is dominated by capitalist greed and hierarchical power dynamics, with entities like land speculators exploiting the environment for personal gain. Marginalized groups, such as the natives, face systemic oppression akin to the treatment of indigenous populations on Earth, relegating them to servitude and exclusion. Institutions like education systems reinforce these structures, teaching settlers' children to adapt to their constrained roles within the colony, rather than challenging its inequities. The geopolitical undercurrents of Earth's conflicts also manifest on Mars. The role of Israel in the novel exemplifies the persistence of Earth's nationalistic and territorial disputes. As a significant player in the colonization effort, Israel's presence highlights the extension of geopolitical tensions to Mars and illustrates how humanity's expansion does not escape but rather amplifies pre-existing conflicts. This incorporation of Earth's political rivalries underscores the novel's critique of colonization as an exercise in replicating terrestrial power structures rather than forging a genuinely new societal paradigm. The chamber in which Kindly Dad sat consisted of one end of a living room with fireplace, couch, coffee table, curtained picture window and an easy chair in which Kindly Dad himself sat, a newspaper open on his lap. Several children sat attentively on the couch as Jack Bolan and the Master Circuit entered. They were listening to the expostulations of the teaching machine and did not seem aware that anyone had come in. The Master Circuit dismissed the children, and then she started to leave too. "I'm not sure what you want me to do," Jack said. "Put it through its cycle. It seems to me that it repeats portions of the cycle or stays stuck. In any case, too much time is consumed. It should return to its starting stage in about 3 hours." A door opened for the Master Circuit and she was gone. He was alone with Kindly Dad and he was not glad of it. "Hi, Kindly Dad," he said without enthusiasm. Setting down his tool case, he began unscrewing the backplate of the teacher. Kindly Dad said in a warm, sympathetic voice, "What's your name, young fellow?" "My name," Jack said as he unfastened the plate and laid it down beside him, "is Jack Bolan, and I'm a Kindly Dad too, just like you, Kindly Dad. My boy is 10 years old, so don't call me young fellow, okay?" Again, he was trembling hard and sweating. "Oh," Kindly Dad said, "I see." "What do you see?" Jack said, and discovered that he was almost shouting. "Look," he said, "go through your goddamn cycle, okay? If it makes it easier for you, go ahead and pretend I'm a little boy." "I just want to get this done and get out of here," he said to himself, with as little trouble as possible. He could feel the swelling, complicated emotions inside of him. 3 hours, he thought dismally. Kindly Dad said, "Little Jackie, it seems to me you've got a mighty heavy weight on your chest today, am I right?" Today and every day. Jack clicked on his trouble light and shone it up into the works of the teacher. The mechanism seemed to be moving along its cycle properly so far. "Maybe I can help you," Kindly Dad said. "Often it helps if an older, more experienced person can sort of listen in on your troubles can sort of share them and make them lighter. Okay, Jack agreed, sitting back on his haunches. I'll play along. I'm stuck here for 3 hours anyhow. You want me to go all the way back to the beginning, to the episode back on Earth when I worked for Corporation and had the occlusion? Start wherever you like, kindly Dad said graciously. Do you know what schizophrenia is, kindly Dad? I believe I've got a pretty good idea, Jackie, kindly Dad said. Well, kindly Dad, it's the most mysterious malady in all medicine. That's what it is, and it shows up in 1 out of every 6 people, which is a lot of people. Yes, that certainly is, kindly Dad said. At one time, Jack said, as he watched the machinery moving, I had what they call situational polymorphous schizophrenia simplex, and, kindly Dad, it was rough. I just bet it was, kindly Dad said. Now, I know what you're supposed to be for, Jack said. I know your purpose, kindly Dad. We're a long way from home, millions of miles away. Our connection with our civilization back home is tenuous. And a lot of folks are mighty scared, kindly Dad, because with each passing year, that link gets weaker. So this public school was set up to present a fixed milieu to the children born here, an Earth-like environment. For instance, this fireplace. We don't have fireplaces here on Mars. We heat by small atomic furnaces. That picture window with all the glass, sandstorms would make it opaque. In fact, there's not one thing about you that's derived from our actual world here. Do you know what a bleakman is, kindly Dad? Can't say I do, little Jackie. What is a bleakman? It's one of those indigenous races on Mars. You know, you're on Mars, don't you? Kindly Dad nodded. Schizophrenia, Jack said, is one of the most pressing problems human civilization has ever faced. Frankly, kindly Dad, I emigrated to Mars because of my schizophrenic episode when I was 22 and worked for Corporation. I was cracking up. I had to move out of a complex urban environment and into a simpler one, a primitive frontier environment with more freedom. The pressure was too great for me. It was emigrate or go mad. That co-op building, can you imagine a thing going down level after level and up like a skyscraper with enough people living there for them to have their own supermarket? I went mad standing in line at the bookstore. Everybody else, kindly Dad, every single person in that bookstore and in that supermarket, all of them lived in the same building I did. It was a society, that one building. And today it's small by comparison with some that have been built. What do you say to that? My, kindly Dad said, shaking his head. Now here's what I think, Jack said. I think this public school and you teaching machines are going to rear another generation of schizophrenics, the descendants of people like me who are making a fine adaptation to this new planet. You're going to split the psyches of these children because you're teaching them to expect an environment which doesn't exist for them. It doesn't even exist back on Earth now. It's obsolete. Ask that Whitlock teacher if intelligence doesn't have to be practical to be true intelligence. I heard it say so. It has to be a tool for adaptation, right, kindly Dad? Yes, little Jackie, it has to be. What you ought to be teaching, Jack said, is how do we... Yes, little Jackie, kindly Dad interrupted him. It has to be. And as it said this, a gear tooth slipped in the glare of Jack's trouble light, and the phase of the cycle repeated itself. You're stuck, Jack said. You've got a worn gear tooth. Yes, little Jackie, kindly Dad said. It has to be. You're right, Jack said. It does have to be. Everything wears out eventually. Nothing is permanent. Change is the one constant of life, right, kindly Dad? Yes, little Jackie, kindly Dad said. It has to be. Shutting off the machine at its power supply, Jack began to disassemble its main shaft, preparatory to removing the worn gear. In Martian Timeslip, Philip K. Dick melds speculative fiction with incisive social critique, casting autism and schizophrenia as gateways to alternative experiences of time and reality rather than merely conditions to be fixed. From challenging mind 20th century psychiatric labels to foreshadowing the modern neurodiversity movement, Dick's portrayal of non-neurotypical or neurodiverse minds invites readers to question the presumed boundaries of normalcy. By weaving disruptions in time seamlessly into the subjective experiences of his characters, Dick underscores the contingent nature of reality itself and posits that those who live outside conventional mental frameworks can in fact perceive the deeper truths that remain concealed from the majority. I'm going to dive into 4 aspects of Dick's treatment of schizophrenia and autism now. Dick aligns schizophrenia, autism, and other non-neurotypical states with a deeper and often more authentic perception of reality, particularly in Martian Timeslip, where altered minds perceive disjointed or non-linear time. Manfred Steiner's autism and Jack Boland's schizophrenic episodes illustrate this process by stripping away the socially agreed upon sense of chronological order. In depicting Manfred's private inner world, Dick shows how such a perspective can challenge assumptions about linear causality and objective reality. The novel underscores that to exist outside conventional norms of perception is not necessarily to be disengaged from reality, but rather to experience a reality that is more layered and multifaceted. It also resonates with Dick's broader theme. Individuals who live outside society's common frame of reference can, in his view, grasp truths veiled by collective consensus. Autism and schizophrenia become lenses for an alternative understanding of time and environment. Portrait of autism and schizophrenia situates both conditions in mid-20th century medical debates about mental deficiency versus unique modes of experience. Set on a frontier like Martian colony, the novel reflects the era's clinical discourse, which often pathologized non-conforming mental states while oscillating between competing labels. This historical backdrop underscores how society's definitions of normality and the subsequent stigma attached to deviations have shifted over time. And their social ramifications. Viewed through a historical lens, autism and schizophrenia in the novel reflect not only individual cognitive differences but also the broader cultural forces shaping what is defined as deviant. In many ways, Martian Timeslip prefigures later debates on neurodiversity by depicting Manfred Steiner's autism and Jack Boland's schizophrenia not merely as pathologies, but as states revealing new dimensions of time and perception. Rather than simply portraying these diagnoses as unfortunate deficits, Dick complicates the narrative. Manfred's inability to communicate conventionally stands alongside his extraordinary temporal shifts, which hint at entire realms of experience that neurotypical individuals might never perceive. Although this line reflects a dismissive societal attitude towards autism, Dick's wider narrative calls such attitudes into question. In the context of Manfred's ultimate importance to the unfolding plot, Martian Timeslip invites readers to re-evaluate assumptions about utility, communication, and human worth. The novel thus becomes a prescient voice anticipating later neurodiversity perspectives, which recognize autistic and schizophrenic individuals as possessing valuable, if unconventional, insights. Throughout the novel, disruptions in time, literal time slips, are utilized as a metaphor for the subjective realities experienced by individuals with autism or schizophrenia. This structural device underscores the impossibility of a single objective reality. Both Manfred and Jack navigate temporal disjunctions that reveal how personal cognition shapes the fabric of one's experiences. In seeing these slips, primarily through the eyes of characters deemed mentally ill, Dick challenges the standard hierarchy of whose reality is valid. Such a statement reflects a widespread social prejudice of the time, one that equated autism with parental fault or deficiency. Yet Dick's narrative subverts this prejudice. The so-called deficit is bound up with expanded temporal awareness. For both Manfred and Jack, the line between disordered perception and revelatory vision becomes blurred, suggesting that any single standard of sanity, and by extension any neat chronology of time, may be untenable. In Martian Timeslip, Philip K. Dick delivers a work of speculative fiction that discusses mental illness, social structures, and the nature of time itself. By blending these elements with the backdrop of a Martian colony, he highlights humanity's enduring flaws, our exploitation of resources, the marginalization of those who think differently, and our tendency to replicate terrestrial conflicts wherever we might venture. The novel's treatment of autism and schizophrenia stands out not just for its prescience but for its empathy. Dick doesn't reduce these conditions to pathologies. Instead, he elevates them as alternative ways of perceiving reality. At its core, Martian Timeslip is a story of survival, both physical and existential, set against the stark beauty of a desolate Martian landscape. As always, I hope this review deepens your appreciation for Dick's work and sparks curiosity about the broader themes it explores. We will stick with Dick, pun intended, for a little longer. I gifted myself to the Unteleported Man, Radio Free Albemuth, and Stigmata for Christmas, so expect these reviews to drop throughout January. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.